She was on her knees, bruised and terrified when she whispered those words to stop the kick. The drunk enforcer froze, but not because of her plea, because the Mafia boss across the room recognized her face. For years ago, she'd saved his mother's life and disappeared without a trace. Now he'd found her, and he wasn't letting her go. The glass hit the floor first. Emily watched it shatter in slow motion, champagne and crystal exploding across the black marble like a constellation. Then came her knees slamming down hard enough to make her vision blur. "You think I'm stupid?" The man's voice was thick with whiskey and rage. His hand twisted tighter in her hair, yanking her head back. "You think we don't know what you're doing? I'm just a waitress." Emily's words came out broken, her lungs too tight to breathe properly. The Crimson Lounge was packed tonight. Dom and Blackwood's men had taken over the entire club for some kind of celebration, and the place vibrated with cigar smoke, loud music, and the kind of laughter that came from men who'd never been told no in their lives. Emily had been working here for 3 months. Tips were good, questions were few. She kept her head down, served the drinks, and went home to her brother every night with enough cash to keep the lights on. Until now. Vincent saw you, the enforcer. Emily thought his name was Tony or maybe Leo, shook her like a rag doll lurking by the hallway, listening to private conversations. "Who sent you? The Bratva? The Gordanos? Nobody sent me." "I was just—" Emily gasped as he threw her forward. Her palms scraped against the broken glass, hot pain shooting up her wrists. "I was bringing more champagne to the back room, that's all." The music was too loud. Nobody was paying attention. A dozen men in expensive suits sat 20 feet away drinking, laughing, counting stacks of cash on poker tables. Not one of them looked over. Emily's manager had warned her about working the private parties. Keep your eyes down, keep your mouth shut, and don't remember anything you see. That's how you survive. She'd followed every rule, but somehow she'd still ended up here on her knees in a hallway that smelled like expensive cologne and danger. Tony or Leo circled around her, his shadow falling across her face. Through her fear, Emily registered details. Expensive shoes, the kind that cost more than her rent. A gun tucked into his waistband, barely hidden by his jacket. The way his pupils were blown wide, paranoid and unfocused. He was high on something, which made him unpredictable, which made him deadly. "You know what happens to rats?" He lifted his foot, the polished leather catching the dim hallway light. His boot hovered above her ribs. They get exterminated. Time stopped. Emily's body was already a map of bruises. A week ago, she'd been mugged walking home from her second job at the diner. The men had taken her purse, shoved her into a brick wall, and left her with cracked ribs that still screamed every time she breathed too deep. She hadn't seen a doctor, couldn't afford it, just wrapped her torso in bandages and kept working. If this man kicked her now, she'd break. She knew it with the same certainty. She knew her own name. "Please." The word fell out of her mouth, barely a whisper. Emily looked up at him, her vision swimming with tears. She refused to let fall. "Please don't kick me. I'm already hurt." The honesty of it surprised even her. No begging, no elaborate excuses, just the truth, raw and simple. The enforcer hesitated. For a moment, the only sound was the bass thumping through the walls, vibrating in Emily's broken ribs. Then a voice cut through the noise. Quiet but absolute. "Leo." The temperature in the hallway dropped 10 degrees. Emily didn't move, couldn't move. But she saw Leo's face drain of color, his boot lowering slowly back to the ground. Heavy footsteps approached. Expensive ones, the kind that didn't hurry because they didn't need to. "Mr. Blackwood," Leo's voice had changed completely. The rage was gone, replaced by something that sounded like terror wrapped in respect. This girl was, I can see what you were doing." The second voice was closer now, right above Emily's head. "The question is why?" Emily kept her eyes on the floor. Every instinct screamed at her to stay small, stay invisible, stay alive. But curiosity was a dangerous thing. She lifted her head just enough to see him. Damon Blackwood stood 6 feet tall, maybe more. His suit was charcoal gray and fit him like it had been sewn directly onto his body. No tie, top button undone. Dark hair pushed back from a face that could have belonged to a movie star if not for the coldness in his eyes. Those eyes were on her now. Emily forgot how to breathe. Stand up. It wasn't a request. Damon's gaze never left her face as he spoke to Leo. And tell me exactly why you thought attacking my staff was acceptable behavior at my celebration? She was spying. Was she? Adrian's tone didn't change. Somehow that made it worse. He extended a hand toward Emily. She stared at it. Strong fingers, a single ring on his right hand, gold with some kind of crest. No wedding band. I'm not going to ask twice, Adrian said softly. Emily's hand shook as she placed it in his. His grip was firm but careful, pulling her to her feet with surprising gentleness. Pain exploded in her ribs, and she couldn't stop the small gasp that escaped. Damon's eyes narrowed. You're hurt. It wasn't a question. I'm fine. Emily tried to pull her hand back, but he held on, his thumb pressing lightly against her wrist. Checking her pulse, she realized, seeing if she was lying. You're terrified. Damon released her hand and took a step back, his attention shifting fully to Leo. The temperature dropped again. And she has no reason to be because she works here, because she's under my protection, and because nobody. His voice went deadly quiet. Puts their hands on my people without my permission. Leo opened his mouth, closed it, opened it again. Mr. Blackwood, I swear. I thought you didn't think that's the problem. Adrian adjusted his cufflinks, the gesture casual and terrifying all at once. Vincent, Vincent. Two men appeared from the shadows like ghosts, big men, silent men. Take Leo outside, Adrian said. Make sure he understands our policy on workplace violence. The color drained from Leo's face. Please, Mr. Blackwood, I'm sorry, I didn't mean. But the two men were already moving, their hands clamping down on Leo's arms. He was dragged backward, his expensive shoes squeaking against the marble, his protests fading as a door opened and closed somewhere down the hall. Emily stood frozen, her heart hammering against her damaged ribs. Adrian turned back to her. His expression was unreadable. What's your name, Emily? Her voice came out steadier than she expected. Emily Carter. Something flickered across his face. Recognition? No, that didn't make sense. They'd never met, had they? Emily Carter. Adrian repeated slowly like he was testing how the name felt in his mouth. His head tilted slightly. Have we met before? No, sir. I've only been working here for 3 months. But he was still staring at her, his dark eyes searching her face like he was looking for something, a memory, a ghost. Then his expression cleared, smoothed over into polite distance. Go home, he said. Take tomorrow off. Paid. And Emily, she waited. Next time someone threatens you in my club, you come find me. Understood. Emily nodded, not trusting her voice. Damon walked past her back toward the main room where the party continued. At the doorway, he paused and looked back over his shoulder. I don't forget faces, he said quietly, and I never forget a debt. Then he was gone. Emily stood alone in the hallway, glass crunching under her feet, her hands still shaking. She had no idea what he meant. But something told her she was about to find out. Emily didn't go home. She couldn't, not yet. Her shift didn't end for another 2 hours, and walking out early meant losing pay she desperately needed. So she cleaned up the broken glass, washed the blood from her scraped palms in the staff bathroom, and returned to work with her head down and her hands steady. The main room felt different now. Eyes tracked her movements. Conversations paused when she passed. Men who'd ignored her all night suddenly watched her like she was a puzzle they needed to solve. Emily kept her face neutral and delivered drinks to table 7 where 4 men in silk shirts were playing poker with alarming amounts of cash. "Another round?" she asked quietly. The dealer, a man with a scar across his jaw, studied her for a long moment. Then he nodded slowly, respect in his eyes where there had been nothing before. It was strange. It was unsettling. Across the room, Dom Blackwood sat in the VIP section, surrounded by his inner circle. He hadn't looked at Emily once since returning, but she felt his presence like a physical weight impossible to ignore. She was filling champagne glasses at the bar when she heard his voice. Everyone, a moment, the music didn't stop. It was too loud, controlled by a DJ who probably hadn't noticed, but every conversation in the room died instantly. 50 men turned toward Adrian like compass needles finding north. Emily's stomach dropped. Adrian stood buttoning his suit jacket with practiced ease. He didn't raise his voice. He didn't need to. "Some of you may have heard there was an incident tonight." His eyes swept the room, cold and assessing. "One of our associates made a mistake. He put his hands on a member of my staff. He threatened her. He made her fear for her safety in my establishment." The silence was absolute now. Even the bartender had stopped moving. "This is unacceptable." Adrian's tone never changed, but something in it made Emily's skin prickle. "And it's been handled, but I want to make something very clear." He turned then, and his gaze locked directly onto Emily. Her breath stopped. "Emily Carter is under my protection." Dahman spoke each word with deliberate weight. "She is not to be questioned, not to be threatened, not to be touched by anyone for any reason. Am I understood?" A chorus of "yes," Mr. Blackwood, rippled through the room. Emily felt 50 pairs of eyes turned toward her. Heat crawled up her neck. This was wrong. This was dangerous. Being noticed in this world was the last thing she wanted. But Adrian wasn't finished. He walked toward her, his footsteps measured and purposeful. The crowd parted like water. When he reached the bar, he stopped 3 feet away, close enough to speak to her, far enough to remain proper. "Do you remember 4 years ago?" he asked. "August, the farmer's market on Randolph Street." Emily's mind went blank. 4 years ago, she'd been 19, working weekends at the market to help pay for her brother's school supplies. It felt like a lifetime ago. There was an older woman. Adrian's voice was quieter now, meant only for her, but still carrying in the silent room. Late 60s, elegant. She was looking at tomatoes when she collapsed. The memory slammed into Emily like a freight train. The woman, the panic in her eyes, the way she'd clutched her chest, gasping for air. Emily had been the only one close enough to catch her before she hit the pavement. I remember," Emily whispered. "She had a heart attack. I called 911. I stayed with her until the ambulance came." "You did more than that." Adrian's expression shifted, something almost soft entering his eyes. "You held her hand. You kept her calm. You told her to breathe, that help was coming, that she was going to be okay. You rode with her in the ambulance even though you didn't know her. You stayed at the hospital until my family arrived." Emily's throat tightened. She did remember that the woman had been so scared, so fragile. Emily couldn't just leave her alone. The doctor said if she'd been alone any longer, if someone hadn't called for help immediately, Dahman paused. "You saved her life." "I just did what anyone would do," Emily said. "No." Adrian's voice hardened. "Most people would have walked away, minded their own business, but you didn't. You stayed. And when my family tried to thank you, tried to give you a reward, you disappeared. You refused to even give us your last name." That was true. Emily had been embarrassed by the attention, uncomfortable with the idea of taking money for helping someone. She had slipped out of the hospital waiting room the moment she knew the woman was stable. "That woman," Dahman said, his eyes never leaving Emily's face, "was my mother." The room seemed to tilt. Emily grabbed the edge of the bar to steady herself. "I didn't know. I swear I didn't. I know." Adrian's expression softened again, just slightly. "You had no idea who she was, who we were. That's what made it remarkable." You helped her because it was the right thing to do, not because you expected anything in return. He turned back to the room, his voice rising. My mother has spoken about that day many times over the years. She's tried to find the young woman who saved her life, and tonight, by chance, I found her myself. He looked at Emily again, which is why I want it known. Emily Carter is under my mother's protection, and therefore under mine. The weight of those words settled over the room like snow, under his mother's protection. In this world, Emily was learning that meant something sacred, something untouchable. Dahman pulled a phone from his pocket, typed something quickly, and then put it away. My mother will be glad to finally thank you properly, but for now, know this: you are safe here always. He gave her a small nod, respectful, almost courtly, and then returned to his table. The room remained silent for 3 full seconds. Then the music seemed louder, the conversations restarted, and life resumed. But everything had changed. Emily could feel it in the way people looked at her. The weight of respect mixed with curiosity and in some faces resentment. Holy hell, the bartender breathed beside her. You saved Mama Blackwood's life. Emily couldn't find words. You're untouchable now. He continued, shaking his head in disbelief. Completely untouchable. Do you understand what that means? She didn't. Not really. But as the night wore on, she began to see it. Men who would have snapped their fingers at her now waited politely for her attention. The manager, who'd barely known her name earlier, asked if she needed anything, if she was comfortable, if her ribs were okay. Someone had cleaned up the broken glass in the hallway. Someone had left a first aid kit in the staff room with her name on it. And when Emily finally left at 2 in the morning, bone-tired and reeling, there was a black car waiting at the curb. The driver, a serious man in a dark suit, opened the back door. Miss Carter, Mr. Blackwood arranged a ride home for you for your safety. Emily hesitated. I usually take the bus. Not anymore, the driver said simply. Mr. Blackwood insists. Too tired to argue, too overwhelmed to think straight, Emily slid into the leather back seat. The car smelled like expensive cologne and power. As they pulled away from the curb, Emily caught sight of Dahman and Blackwood standing in the club's second-floor window, a glass of whiskey in his hand, watching her leave. Their eyes met for just a moment. Then the car turned the corner and he was gone. Emily leaned her head back against the seat and closed her eyes. Her whispered plea had stopped a kick, but it had started something else entirely. The car ride home took 15 minutes. Emily spent 14 of them replaying the night in her head, trying to make sense of what had happened. When the driver pulled up to her apartment building, a rundown 3-story walk-up in a neighborhood that got worse after dark, he turned in his seat. Miss Carter, Mr. Blackwood wanted me to give you this. He handed her a business card, heavy stock in boss letters, just a phone number, nothing else. You need anything, any problem, any time, you call. Emily took the card with numb fingers. Thank you. One more thing. The driver's expression was serious. Leo Greco won't be bothering you again or anyone else. Something in his tone made Emily's stomach twist. What happened to him? The driver's eyes were kind but firm. Some lessons need to be learned the hard way. Mississippi, that's all you need to know. Emily climbed out of the car and watched it disappear down the street. The business card felt heavy in her pocket like a stone. Inside her apartment, her 17-year-old brother Danny was asleep on the couch, calculus textbook open on his chest. The TV played quietly, some late-night show he'd probably fallen asleep watching. Emily locked the door behind her, set down her purse, and finally let herself feel it. All of it. Her hands started shaking first, then her legs. She made it to the kitchen before her knees gave out, sliding down the cabinet to sit on the cold linoleum floor. She'd almost been hurt tonight, badly hurt, maybe killed. And then Adrian Blackwood had saved her because 4 years ago she'd helped his mother. Emily wrapped her arms around her ribs, still aching, still damaged, and tried to breathe through the overwhelming feeling of something shifting beneath her feet, like the ground had turned to water. She didn't sleep that night. The next morning, Emily's phone rang at 9. Miss Carter, this is Rosa Cardenas, Mr. Blackwood's assistant. He asked me to confirm you're taking today off as instructed. Paid, of course. Emily, who'd been staring at her ceiling for the past hour, sat up slowly. Yes, thank you. Wonderful. Also, Mrs. Blackwood, Mr. Blackwood's mother, would very much like to see you. Would tomorrow afternoon work? She's invited you to lunch at her home. Emily's mind went blank. Lunch? Yes. I'll text you the address. A car will pick you up at noon. Business casual attire is fine. Rose's voice was efficient but warm. Mrs. Blackwood is very excited to finally thank you properly. Before Emily could respond, the call ended. Danny shuffled into her room, hair sticking up in every direction. Who calls at 9 on a Saturday? Emily looked at her phone like it might explode. I think I just got invited to have lunch with a mob boss's mother. Danny blinked. What? Long story. Must be one hell of a story if you're getting invited to. Wait. Danny's eyes widened. Is this about that thing at the club last night? You said everything was fine. Emily hadn't told him the details, hadn't wanted to worry him. But looking at her little brother, who'd been through enough when their parents died 3 years ago, she realized she couldn't keep this from him. So she told him everything. When she finished, Danny was quiet for a long moment. Emily, he said, finally you saved a mafia boss's mom's life and then accidentally ran into him years later while working at his club. Apparently that's Danny shook his head slowly. That's either really good luck or really bad luck, and I can't tell which. Emily laughed, though it came out shaky. Yeah, me neither. That afternoon, Emily couldn't shake the feeling of being watched. She went to the grocery store, eyes on her in the parking lot. She picked up her paycheck from the diner where she worked breakfast shifts. A black sedan was parked across the street. She stopped at the pharmacy. A man in a suit stood near the entrance, scrolling through his phone but clearly tracking her movements. Dahmen's protection, she realized he'd meant it literally. By evening, Emily's nerves were stretched thin. She tried to cook dinner but burned the pasta, tried to watch TV but couldn't focus. The business card sat on her coffee table like a question she didn't know how to answer. Around 8, Danny looked up from his homework. You should call him. What? The number. You should call it and say what? Thanks for not letting your guy kick me. Here's a fruit basket. Dai's expression was serious beyond his ears. You should say thank you properly because whether you like it or not, that man saved your life last night and now you're connected to him, pretending you're not won't change it. Clara stared at her brother when had he gotten so wise. She picked up the card, her heart hammering. The number stared back at her. It took 20 minutes to work up the courage. Finally, hands shaking, she dialed. 1 ring, 2. Miss Carter. Dahmen's voice was unmistakable, smooth and controlled. I was wondering if you'd call. Emily's mouth went dry. I wanted to say thank you for last night for everything. You don't need to thank me. I owe you a debt. One that can never truly be repaid. You don't owe me anything. I just did what anyone would do. Adrian's tone held a hint of amusement. We've established that's not true. Most people walk away from trouble. You walk toward it, that matters. Emily didn't know what to say. My mother is looking forward to meeting you tomorrow, Adrian continued. She's been searching for you for 4 years. You've given her a gift. Closure, peace of mind, the chance to properly express her gratitude. I don't need gratitude. Really, I know that's exactly why you deserve it. There was a pause. Emily, I want you to understand something. My world is complicated, dangerous, but you're safe in it. Because of what you did, because of who you are, you have protection that can't be taken away. I need you to trust that. Emily thought about the men following her, the eyes watching, the weight of being noticed in a world where invisibility was survival. What if I don't want protection? She asked quietly. Adrian was silent for a moment. When he spoke, his voice was softer. Then I'm sorry, but it's not optional. My mother loves you like a daughter for what you did. And in my family, that means something. That means everything. Another pause. Get some rest, Emily. Tomorrow you'll understand better. The line went dead. Emily sat on her couch, phone in hand, feeling like she'd just stepped off the edge of something and was still waiting to hit the ground. In the kitchen, Danny called out, "So, how'd it go?" Emily looked at the card, at the phone, at the world outside her window where men in suits watched her building. "I think," she said slowly, "my life just got very complicated." Danny appeared in the doorway holding 2 bowls of ice cream. He handed her one. "Well," he said, sitting beside her, "at least you've got good protection." "Despite everything?" Emily smiled. But the smile faded when she looked out the window and saw the black sedan still parked below. Protection, she was learning, looked a lot like a cage, even if it was lined with gold. Emily returned to work at the Crimson Lounge on Monday night. She'd considered not going, considered quitting entirely, finding another job, disappearing back into the anonymous life she'd built so carefully. But Monday also meant rent was due Friday, and Danny needed new textbooks and the electricity bill had arrived with a late fee attached. So she tied her hair back, put on her uniform, and walked through the front door at exactly 6 a.m. The hostess, a woman named Jenna, who'd barely spoken to Emily in 3 months, practically jumped out of her seat. "Emily, oh my God, are you okay? We heard what happened. Leo Greco, everyone's talking about." She caught herself glancing around nervously. Not talking. Nobody's talking. We're all just really glad you're safe. Emily forced a smile. "I'm fine, thanks. The manager wants to see you. Before your shift, he said it's important." Of course he did. Marcus Webb's office was at the back of the building, a small room that smelled like cigar smoke and anxiety. He stood when Emily entered, which was new. Marcus had never stood for her before. "Emily, come in. Please sit down." She sat. Marcus stayed standing, which made everything feel like a performance. "First, I want to apologize." He spread his hands. The picture of remorse. "What happened to you on Saturday was completely unacceptable. Leo Greco has been dealt with, and I want you to know that your safety is our top priority." Emily said nothing. "Second, I want to assure you that your position here is secure. Very secure." In fact, Marcus pulled an envelope from his desk drawer. "Mr. Blackwood has instructed me to give you a raise." Effective immediately, he pushed the envelope toward her. Emily didn't touch it. "I don't want a raise." Marcus blinked. "I am sorry. I just want to do my job. That's all." Emily met his eyes. "I don't want special treatment. I don't want attention. I just want to serve drinks and go home." "I understand, but Mr. Blackwood was very clear. Mr. Blackwood doesn't own me." The words came out sharper than she intended. Emily took a breath. Soften her tone. "I appreciate everything he did, but I don't need charity." Marcus looked at her like she'd grown a second head. "This isn't charity, Emily. It's respect. And in this business, when someone like Damon Blackwood offers you respect, you take it." He pushed the envelope closer. Emily stared at it, crisp, white, heavy with implications she didn't want to accept. Finally, she took it, not because she wanted to, because refusing would cause more problems than accepting. "Your shift starts in 10 minutes, Marcus said, relief evident in his voice. "And Emily, people are going to talk. Let them. You're under Mr. Blackwood's protection now. That means something here. It meant everything here. That was the problem." The whispers started immediately. Emily felt them like spider webs brushing against her skin as she moved through the club. Conversations that stopped when she approached. Eyes that followed her every movement. Questions hidden behind polite smiles. "Emily, right?" "I'm Anton. I don't think we've met properly before." A man in an expensive suit extended his hand at table 4. 3 months of invisible service, and now he wanted to know her name. "Emily, honey, you need anything? Water? A break?" The other waitress, Michelle, who'd ignored Emily's existence for weeks, was suddenly concerned about her well-being. Miss Carter, even the bartender who'd called her sweetheart in a dismissive way, now used her last name with careful respect. It was suffocating. During her break, Emily escaped to the staff room, closing the door and leaning against it. Her ribs still ached. Her hands still remembered the feeling of broken glass. And now, on top of everything, she had to navigate this new reality where everyone watched her like she was a bomb. That might explode. The door opened. Michelle slipped inside, her expression a mix of curiosity and something else. Envy, maybe. "So," Michelle said, leaning against the lockers, "you and Mr. Blackwood. How long have you known him?" "I don't know him." Emily pulled her water bottle from her bag, needing something to do with her hands. "Not really, but he said you're under his protection." Under his mother's protection. Michelle's eyes were sharp. "You don't get that kind of protection for nothing. I helped his mother once, years ago." "That's all, that's all." Michelle laughed, but there was no humor in it. "Emily, do you understand what you have? What you've been given? Some of the girls who work the VIP rooms have been trying to get noticed by Blackwood for years, and you just stumble into it." Emily's chest tightened. "I didn't ask for any of this. Nobody asked for it, but you got it anyway." Michelle's expression shifted to something almost calculating. "Just be careful. Protection goes both ways. They protect you, but they also own you. That's how it works here." She left before Emily could respond. "Own you?" The words echoed in Emily's head as she returned to the floor. Was that true? Had she traded one kind of danger for another? At table 7, a group of younger men, newer faces, probably low-level associates, watched her with obvious interest. When she approached to take their order, one of them smiled. "You're the one, right? The one Blackwood pulled Leo Greo's card for." Emily's hand tightened on her notepad. "What can I get you? Word is Leo's in the hospital. Broken jaw, cracked ribs, maybe worse." The man's smile widened. "All because he touched you. That's some serious protection." I said, "What can I get you?" Emily's voice was ice. The smile faded. He ordered a whiskey, suddenly respectful. But as Emily walked away, she heard him mutter to his friends, "She doesn't even realize what she's got." That was the problem. She did realize, and it terrified her. The night dragged on forever. By closing time, Emily's nerves were shredded. Every interaction felt like a test she hadn't studied for. Every conversation carried weight she didn't know how to balance. She was wiping down tables when Jenna approached, her voice low. "Emily, Mr. Blackwood is here. He's asking for you." Emily's heart stopped. "What? He's in his office. Said to send you up when you're finished." This was new. Adrian had never summoned her before, never requested her presence outside of chance encounters on the floor. Emily climbed the stairs to the second floor, each step feeling heavier than the last. The door to Adrian's office was open, light spilling into the hallway. She knocked softly. "Kumain Emily." Adrian sat behind a massive mahogany desk reviewing papers with reading glasses perched on his nose. The glasses made him look different, less intimidating, almost human. He glanced up, removed the glasses, and gestured to the chair across from him. "Sat, please." Emily sat, her hands folded in her lap to keep them from shaking. "I heard you tried to refuse the raise," Adrian said without preamble. Of course he'd heard. He probably heard everything. "I don't need special treatment," Emily said carefully. "It's not special treatment. It's fair compensation for what you've endured." Daman leaned back in his chair, studying her. "Emily, I understand this is uncomfortable for you. The attention, the changes, but I need you to understand something." He paused, choosing his words carefully. "When I give my protection, I mean it. That protection extends to your work, your life, your safety. But it also means people will react to you differently, some with respect, some with resentment, some with fear. That's the reality of this world." "I didn't ask to be part of this world," Emily said quietly. "I know," Adrian's expression softened. "But you are, whether you want to be or not, because 4 years ago you made a choice. You helped someone, and that choice had consequences you couldn't have predicted. Emily looked at her hands. Sometimes I wish I'd just walked away. The silence that followed was heavy. Do you really wish that? Daman asked softly. If you could go back knowing my mother might have died without help, would you walk away? Emily thought about the woman at the farmer's market, the fear in her eyes, the desperate grip of her hand. No, she admitted, I wouldn't. Then don't regret the consequences. Daman stood, walking around the desk. Tomorrow you'll meet my mother. She'll thank you herself, and maybe then you'll understand why this matters so much. Why you matter. He offered his hand to help her up. Emily took it, noticing again how careful his grip was. Strong but gentle. Get some rest, he said. The car will pick you up at noon. Emily nodded and turned to leave. At the door, she paused. Mr. Blackwood. Adrian. You can call me Adrian. She looked back at him. What if I quit? What if I just left? Adrian's expression was unreadable. Then you'd still be under my protection. It doesn't end because you changed jobs, Emily. It doesn't end at all. The weight of that statement followed her all the way home. By Tuesday morning, Emily's name was everywhere. She discovered this at the diner where she worked breakfast shifts. Rita, the 60-year-old owner who'd hired Emily 3 years ago, pulled her aside before the morning rush. Honey, I need to ask you something. Rita's weathered face was serious. Are you in some kind of trouble? Emily's stomach dropped. What? No. Why? Because 2 men came in yesterday asking about you. Nice suits, not so nice questions. Rita crossed her arms. They wanted to know how long you'd worked here, if you had any problems, if anyone ever gave you trouble. When I asked who they were, they just smiled and left. That kind of smile that's not really a smile, you know. Emily knew. She knew exactly what kind of men Rita was describing. I'm not in trouble, Emily said carefully. I just helped someone once, and now they're making sure I'm okay. Someone important. Very. Rita studied her for a long moment, then she sighed. Well, at least the tip should be good today. Word got around. Half the neighborhood knows you've got connections now. She wasn't wrong. The usual customers, construction workers, nurses coming off night shifts, local business owners, all treated Emily differently. They were more polite, left bigger tips, asked how she was doing with genuine concern instead of casual courtesy. But there were others, people who'd never come to the diner before, men in expensive cars who ordered coffee and watched Emily work, their eyes calculating, taking her measure. One of them, a thick-necked man with gold rings on every finger, left her a $100 bill for a $6 breakfast. You tell Mr. Blackwood that Vincent says hello, he said with a smile that didn't reach his eyes. Emily pocketed the money with shaking hands. She was being tested. She understood that now. Everyone wanted to know, was she really under Blackwood's protection? How far did it extend? What could they get away with? At the Crimson Lounge that night, the testing became more obvious. A new face appeared at table 3, a man in his 40s with slipped back hair and a scar running through his left eyebrow. He ordered bourbon neat, and when Emily brought it, he caught her wrist. Not hard, not threatening, but firm enough to stop her. Emily Carter, he said softly. I've heard a lot about you. Emily's pulse jumped. Can I get you anything else? Information. His thumb pressed against her wrist right over her pulse. Checking her reaction. I heard Leo Greco learned a hard lesson because of you. I don't know anything about that. No? His smile was cold. Word is Blackwood put Leo in the hospital, broke his jaw in 3 places, all because he pushed you around. He leaned closer. That's serious protection, sweetheart. Makes a man wonder what you did to earn it. Emily pulled her wrist free. I served him drinks. That's all. That's all. The man laughed. Nobody gets that kind of protection for serving drinks. Before Emily could respond, a shadow fell across the table. Vincent, one of Adrian's senior men, the one who had helped drag Leo away, stood there with his arms crossed. His expression was carved from stone. "Mr. Duca," Vincent said quietly, "is there a problem?" The man's smile vanished. "No problem, just having a conversation." "Then let me make something clear." Vincent's voice never rose, but it filled the space like thunder. "Miss Carter is under Mr. Blackwood's personal protection. That means nobody touches her, nobody questions her, nobody makes her uncomfortable. Are we clear?" Duca raised his hands in mock surrender. "Crystal clear." "Good." Vincent looked at Emily. "You okay?" She nodded, not trusting her voice. Vincent walked away, but Emily felt his presence like a shield for the rest of the night. The whispers in the staff room were worse. "Did you see that? Duca actually backed down because of her. Because Blackwood said so. I heard she's sleeping with him." "Don't be stupid. Blackwood doesn't mix business with pleasure. Then what's so special about her?" Emily kept her head down, changing into her street clothes, pretending she couldn't hear them. But Michelle cornered her by the lockers, her voice low and urgent. "Emily, you need to be careful. Duca runs the Southside operations. He doesn't back down for anyone except Blackwood himself. If he's testing you, others will too." "I'm not trying to cause problems," Emily said. "I know, but you are." Just by existing, Michelle glanced around, making sure they were alone. "Some of the guys are saying you must have dirt on Blackwood. Others think you're family. A few think you're his mistress, even though everyone knows he doesn't have 1 inch. Emily's face burned. "I'm none of those things." "Then what are you?" "I'm just someone who helped his mother once. That's the truth." Michelle shook her head slowly. "In this world, Emily, the truth doesn't matter. Perception does. And right now, everyone perceives you as someone with power, real or imagined." She left, and Emily stood alone among the lockers, feeling the weight of 100 eyes she couldn't see. The ride home was quiet. A different driver tonight, a younger man who introduced himself as Paolo. He was polite, professional, and said nothing except to confirm her address. But when they pulled up to her building, Paolo turned in his seat. "Miss Carter, I need to tell you something." Off the record, Emily's guard went up immediately. "Okay. There are people who don't like that Mr. Blackwood is protecting you, not because of who you are, but because of what it represents." Paolo chose his words carefully. "See, Blackwood doesn't usually extend personal protection. He's fair, but he's not soft. So when he protects someone, really protects them, people notice, and some of them see it as weakness. I don't want his protection." Emily said, "Doesn't matter what you want, it matters what people think you have." Paolo's eyes were kind but serious. "I'm telling you this because you seem like a good person. Be careful. Not everyone who smiles at you is your friend." Emily climbed out of the car, Paolo's warning echoing in her head. Danny was waiting up despite the late hour. He took one look at her face and made hot chocolate without being asked. "Bad night?" he asked, handing her a mug. "Strange night." Emily wrapped her hands around the warmth. "Everyone's watching me, testing me, trying to figure out what I am to Adrian Blackwood. What are you to him?" "A debt, that's all." But even as she said it, Emily wondered if that was still true. The way he looked at her in his office, the careful concern in his voice, the absolute certainty of his protection, it felt like something more than obligation. "Well," Danny said, sitting beside her, "tomorrow you meet his mother. Maybe she'll have answers." Emily hoped so, because right now she was drowning in questions and the water was rising fast. Outside, the black sedan waited, always watching, always there. Protection or prison? Emily still couldn't tell the difference, but she was starting to suspect they might be the same thing. At table 7 the next day, someone would leave a note with their check. Ask Blackwood about his father's enemies. Ask him if protection works both ways. Emily would find it after they left. The words scrolled in angry handwriting, and she would realize that the testing had only just begun. But tonight, in the fragile quiet of her apartment, she allowed herself one moment of peace before tomorrow brought whatever came next. One moment before she walked into the home of the woman whose life she'd saved. One moment before everything changed again. Adrian Blackwood didn't believe in coincidences. In his line of work, coincidences got people killed. So when Emily Carter had whispered those words, "Please don't kick me, I'm already hurt," and he'd recognized her face from 4 years ago, every instinct told him to dig deeper. Not because he suspected her of anything, but because he needed to understand. The morning after the incident, Dahman sat in his office with his consigliere, Frank Castellano. Frank had been with the family for 30 years, a steady hand and sharper mind. If anyone could investigate without raising alarms, it was him. "Emily Carter," Dahman said, sliding a folder across the desk. "I need to know everything." Frank raised an eyebrow. "The waitress, boss, we already know she's clean. Background check came back empty when we hired her." "I don't want a background check. I want her life, where she lives, who she lives with, what she does when she's not working. Every detail." Frank studied him carefully. "This personal, it's thorough." Dahman's tone left no room for argument. "She saved my mother's life. I need to know who she is, really is." "Understood." Frank picked up the folder. "Give me 24 hours. It took 18. Frank returned Tuesday evening with a file twice as thick as expected. Emily and Carter. Frank began settling into the chair across from Adrian. 23 years old. Parents died in a car accident 3 years ago. Drunk driver, not their fault. Left her with a 17-year-old brother, Daniel. No other family. Dahman leaned back listening. "She's working 2 jobs, Frank continued. Breakfast shift at Rita's Diner on Ashland. Nights at the Crimson Lounge. Pull 60, sometimes 70 hours a week. Every penny goes to rent, food, and her brother's education. Education. The kid's smart, real smart. Honor student applying to colleges. Emily's been saving for his tuition since their parents died." Frank flipped a page. She dropped out of community college to support him, had a partial scholarship, good grades, gave it all up. Something tightened in Adrian's chest. He knew sacrifice. He understood duty. But this girl had rebuilt her entire life around protecting her brother. What about the apartment? Run down. 3rd floor walk-up in a neighborhood that's gotten worse over the past year. Gangs moving in, drug activity increasing. She walks home alone most nights. Frank's expression darkened. 2 weeks ago, she was mugged, 3 blocks from her building. They took her purse, roughed her up pretty bad. Dahman's jaw clenched. How bad? Hospital bad. But she didn't go. Couldn't afford it. Wrapped her ribs herself and kept working. Frank closed the file. "Boss, this girl is tough. She's been through hell and she's still standing. Anyone else in her life? Boyfriend? Friends? No boyfriend?" "Few casual friends from the diner, but she keeps to herself mostly. Her entire world is work and her brother. That's it." Frank paused. "She's clean. Adrian, completely clean. No debts, no criminal record, no connections to anyone. She's exactly what she appears to be, a good kid trying to survive." Adrian absorbed this in silence. He had expected something, some angle, some complication. But Emily Carter was exactly what she'd seen that night at the farmer's market. Someone who helped because it was right, not because it benefited her. Those people were rare in his world, almost non-existent. "What about current threats?" Adrian asked. Frank's expression grew serious. "That's the problem. Since word got out about your protection, she's become a target for curiosity, people testing boundaries. Duco approached her last night. Vincent intervened, but there's chatter. Lots of it." "What kind of chatter?" "Speculation mostly. Who is she? What's her angle? How close is she to you?" Frank leaned forward. "Some of the younger guys think it's romantic. The older ones know better, but they're still trying to figure out what kind of leverage she has. And then there are the outsiders, the Jordanos, not yet, but they're watching. If they think she matters to you, they'll see opportunity." Frank's voice dropped. "You've put a spotlight on her. Adrian protected her publicly. That makes her valuable. And in our world, valuable means vulnerable." Adrian stood walking to the window that overlooked the city. Frank was right. He protected Emily to honor a debt, but in doing so, he'd painted a target on her back. Double the security, Adrian said. I want someone on her building 24/7, discreet but present, and someone follows her to both jobs. Already done. The neighborhood where she lives. Clean it up. Frank blinked. Clean it up. The gangs, the drugs, the problems. I want it handled. Adrian's tone was final. She walks home at night. I want those streets safe. That's going to draw attention. Boss, that's not our territory. It is now. Adrian turned from the window. Send a message to whoever's operating there. They can leave peacefully or leave in pieces. I don't care which. Frank made a note. And if the Giordano's ask questions, tell them the truth. I'm protecting someone under my mother's care. They'll understand that. Adrian paused. But Frank, make it clear. Anyone who touches her answers to me personally. Understood. Frank stood, then hesitated. Boss, can I ask you something? Go ahead. Why her? I understand the debt, the gratitude, but this level of protection, this kind of attention. Frank's eyes were sharp. What is it about this girl that's got you so invested? Adrian was quiet for a long moment. He thought about Emily on her knees in that hallway, bruised and terrified, but still finding the courage to tell the truth. I'm already hurt. No dramatics, no manipulation, just honest vulnerability. He thought about her refusing the raise, wanting to remain invisible when most people in her position would have grabbed for power. He thought about her giving up her own dreams to save her brothers. She reminds me that good people still exist, Adrian said finally. And in my world, Frank, those people are worth protecting. Frank nodded slowly, understanding passing between them. After he left, Dahman returned to the window, watching the city lights flicker in the darkness. His phone buzzed. A text from Vincent. Subject arrived home safely. Building secure, Dahman typed back. Good. Stay alert. He pulled up another number. This one saved simply as mother. The call connected after one ring. Adrian to Zorro, it's late. I know, Ma. I just wanted to confirm tomorrow's lunch with Emily. Yes, everything is ready. I can't wait to finally thank her properly. His mother's voice softened. You found her, Adrian. After all this time, you found the girl who saved my life. I did, and you're protecting her the way she protected me always. There was a pause. Then his mother said something that caught him off guard. She's special, isn't she? Not just because of what she did, but who she is. Adrian closed his eyes. His mother had always been too perceptive. Yeah, Ma. She is. Then you be careful, my son. Special people deserve special care. Don't let this world destroy what makes her good. After they hung up, Dahman sat in the darkness of his office, his mother's words echoing, Don't let this world destroy what makes her good. He'd spent his entire life in this world. He knew its rules, its cruelties, its costs, and he just pulled Emily Carter into it, whether she wanted to be there or not. The question was, could he protect her from it, or would his protection be the very thing that destroyed her? Outside, the city breathed and moved, indifferent to the lives playing out within it. Somewhere in that sprawl, Emily Carter was probably lying awake, worried about tomorrow. And in his office, Dahman Blackwood made a silent promise. She'd saved his mother without asking for anything in return. Now he'd make sure she never had to ask for help again, even if it meant remaking the world around her to keep her safe. The Blackwood estate sat in Oak Park behind iron gates and manicured gardens that looked like they belonged in a magazine. Emily stepped out of the car at exactly noon, her hands sweating despite the cool autumn air. This way, Miss Carter, the driver, Paulo again, gestured toward the front entrance where a woman in her 60s stood waiting. She was elegant, petite, with silver hair swept into a graceful bun. She wore a simple cream dress and pearls, but there was something regal about her presence. The moment Emily saw her face, recognition hit like lightning. This was the woman from the farmer's market. Emily and Mrs. Blackwood descended the steps with surprising quickness, her hands reaching for Emily's. Oh, my dear child, let me look at you. She cupped Emily's face gently, her eyes filling with tears. I've thought about you every day for 4 years, every single day. Her voice cracked with emotion. And here you are, finally. Emily's throat tightened. Mrs. Blackwood, Isabella. Please call me Isabella. She pulled Emily into a hug, warm and maternal and completely unexpected. Come inside. We have so much to talk about. The house was beautiful. Art on the walls, fresh flowers everywhere, the smell of home-cooked food drifting from the kitchen, but it was also lived in comfortable. Family photos covered the mantel. A book lay open on the couch. This wasn't a mansion designed to intimidate. It was a home. Lunch was served in a sunlit dining room overlooking the garden. Homemade pasta, fresh bread, a salad with tomatoes that tasted like summer. Isabella asked about Emily's life, about Danny, about her dreams. She listened with genuine interest, her attention never wavering. You gave up college to care for your brother, Isabella said softly. That's remarkable sacrifice. He's all I have left, Emily replied. I couldn't let him go into foster care. No, you couldn't because you have a good heart. Isabella reached across the table, squeezing Emily's hand. Just like you did 4 years ago when you saved a stranger's life. Anyone would have. Stop. Isabella's voice was gentle but firm. Stop diminishing what you did. You saved me, Emily. You stayed with me when you could have walked away. You rode in that ambulance. You held my hand and told me I'd be okay. Her eyes glistened. Do you know what I remember most? You prayed for me, a stranger. You prayed. Emily had forgotten that detail, but now it came rushing back, whispering prayers in the ambulance, ancient words her grandmother had taught her. You have been a blessing in my life, Isabella continued. Even though I didn't know your name, and now that I found you, I want to do something for you, for your brother. She slid an envelope across the table. Emily stared at it. Mrs. Blackwood, Isabella, I can't. It's a scholarship fund for Daniel. Full tuition, books, housing, wherever he wants to go. Isabella's expression was resolute. This is not negotiable. You gave me life. Let me give your brother his future. Tears spilled down Emily's cheeks before she could stop them. She thought of Danny's college applications, the ones he filled out even though they both knew they couldn't afford it. The dreams he tried to hide to protect her feelings. Thank you, she whispered. Thank you. Isabella stood and hugged her again, this time longer, tighter. You are family now, Emily Carter, not because of debt or obligation, but because I choose you to be. Do you understand? Emily nodded against Isabella's shoulder, overwhelmed by the kindness of this woman, this family she'd stumbled into by accident. When Adrian arrived an hour later to drive Emily home, he found them in the garden, Isabella showing Emily her rose bushes while talking about her own childhood. His mother glowed in a way he hadn't seen in years, and Emily looked peaceful for the first time since that night in the hallway. 1 week later, Emily had just finished working a double shift at the diner when she arrived at the Crimson Lounge. Her feet ached, her back was sore, but the knowledge that Danny's future was secure kept her moving. Everything had shifted since lunch at the Blackwood house. The whispers continued, but they felt more distant now. Emily understood what she was family in the way that mattered to people like Isabella and Adrian, not by blood but by choice. She was carrying a tray of appetizers to the VIP section when she saw Adrian at his usual table surrounded by 4 men in suits. They were deep in conversation, papers spread across the table, voices low and serious. Emily approached quietly. Excuse me, gentlemen, your order. One of the men glanced up. Just set it down, sweetheart. But Adrian raised a hand. Gentlemen, give us a moment. We'll resume in 10 minutes. The men exchanged glances, surprise evident on their faces, but they didn't argue. They gathered their papers and moved to the bar, leaving Emily alone with Adrian. He gestured to the seat beside him. Seat, please. Emily hesitated. I'm working. It's slow tonight, and I'd like to talk to you. away from everyone else for once. His tone was casual, but there was something underneath it. Genuine interest, perhaps even warmth. She sat, setting the tray aside. Adrian studied her for a moment. You look tired. Long day. 2 jobs will do that. He poured her a glass of water from the picture on the table, pushing it toward her. My mother can't stop talking about you. You made quite an impression. Emily smiled despite herself. She's wonderful. And what she did for Danny. I don't have words. She wanted to do it. You gave her something she thought she'd never have. The chance to thank you properly. Adrian leaned back, his expression softening. You helped my mother once, Emily. She never forgot. Neither did I. The words were simple, but the way he said them carried weight. Genuine gratitude, not obligation. I didn't do it for thanks, Emily said quietly. I know. That's exactly why it matters. Adrian's eyes held hers. Most people in this world do things because they expect something in return. A favor, money, leverage. But you helped because it was right. That's rare, especially around here. Emily looked at her hands. I'm not special. I couldn't walk away. That's what makes you special? Adrian's voice dropped lower, more intimate. In my line of work, I'm surrounded by people who make calculated choices. Everything is a transaction, but you don't think like that. You see someone in trouble and you help. No calculation, no angle. Is that a bad thing? Emily asked. No, he smiled. A real smile that transformed his entire face. It's refreshing, almost startling. For a moment, neither of them spoke. The club hummed around them, but in their small corner, everything felt still. Emily saw something in Adrian's eyes she hadn't expected. Curiosity, yes, but also respect, and something else she couldn't quite name. Can I ask you something? Emily said. Anything. Why do you do this, all of this? She gestured around them. This life, this world. Adrian considered the question carefully. Because it's the family business. Because it's what I know. And because despite what people think, there's honor in it. Rules. Protection for those who deserve it. He paused. My father built this with the belief that power should protect, not just dominate. I try to honor that. It was the most personal thing he'd ever said to her. And in that moment, Emily saw past the Mafia boss, past the feared reputation to the man underneath. Someone shaped by duty, family, and his own code of honor. You're not what I expected, Emily admitted. Neither are you, Adrian's smile returned. I expected someone broken by life, but you're not broken. You're bent, maybe bruised, but not broken. Some days it feels close, but not today. He stood, signaling that their conversation was ending. Go home, Emily. Rest. And remember, you're safe here. Not just because of my protection, but because you matter. Those last 3 words hit Emily harder than anything else he could have said. You matter. When was the last time someone had said that to her? She stood, collecting her tray. At the entrance to the VIP section, she looked back. Adrian was watching her, his expression unguarded for just a moment. They exchanged a small nod, mutual understanding passing between them without words. Emily walked away feeling lighter than she had in weeks. Behind her, Damon's associates returned to the table. Everything all right, boss? One asked. Damon's expression closed off again, returning to business. But before he answered, he glanced once more toward where Emily had disappeared into the crowd. Yeah, he said quietly. Everything's fine. But something had shifted. Both of them felt it. A connection forming in the spaces between protection and gratitude. Between 2 people from different worlds who somehow understood each other perfectly. 3 neighborhoods south of the Blackwood territory in a warehouse that smelled like motor oil and desperation. The Clove brothers were having a conversation. Viktor Kozlov sat at a card table counting money with thick fingers while his younger brother Alexei paced like a caged animal. It's an opportunity, Alexei insisted, slamming his hand on the table. Blackwood's got a weakness now. Everyone's talking about it. Victor didn't look up from his counting. Blackwood doesn't have weaknesses. That's why he's still breathing. The waitress. The girl, Alexei, pulled out his phone, showing Victor a grainy photo taken outside the diner. Emily walking to her car, unaware of the camera. Word on the street is she's under his personal protection, his mother's protection. That's not business. That's personal. So we touch her. We send a message. Alex's eyes gleamed with an ambition that made him dangerous. We show the other families that Blackwood can't protect everyone, that his reach isn't as long as he thinks. Victor finally looked up, or we end up like Leo Greco in the hospital or worse. Only if he finds out it was us, Alexei leaned forward. We don't hurt her, not yet. We just watch, learn her patterns, see how tight his security really is. If there's an opening, we take it. If not, we walk away. But we need to know, Victor. We need to see if the rumors are true. Victor studied his brother for a long moment. Alexei was impulsive, hungry for respect they'd never quite earned. But he wasn't entirely wrong. Information was currency in their world. Just watching, Victor said finally. Nothing more. You understand? Alex's smile was sharp. Just watching. But both brothers knew that watching was always the first step. Emily noticed them on Thursday. Two men sitting in a beat-up sedan across from Rita's diner. They weren't eating, weren't on their phones, just sitting watching. When Emily left after her shift, the sedan was still there. She told herself she was being paranoid. Damon's protection had made her hyper-aware of everything, seeing threats where there might be none. But Friday they were back. Same car, same men. One of them, tall with a shaved head, actually came into the diner. He sat at the counter, ordered coffee, and watched Emily work with eyes that felt like hands sliding across her skin. "You're Emily, right?" he said when she refilled his cup. His accent was thick Russian, maybe. "Can I get you anything else?" Emily kept her voice neutral. "Just curious. You work at the Crimson Lounge, too?" "Yeah, that's Blackwood's place." Every alarm bell in Emily's head went off at once. "I work there. Why?" The man smiled, showing too many teeth. "No reason, just making conversation." He left a 20 for a $3 coffee and walked out. Emily watched him get into the sedan. The drivers started the engine, but they didn't leave. They just sat there, parked where she could see them. A message: "We're watching you." That night at the Crimson Lounge, Emily's nerves were frayed. She kept scanning the room, looking for the men from the diner, but they weren't there. At least, not that she could see. During her break, she called Danny. "Hey, where are you?" "Library, studying for finals." "Why?" "Just checking." "You coming straight home after?" "Yeah, around 9. "Emily, what's wrong? You sound weird." She wanted to tell him about the men, about the feeling of being hunted. But Danny had enough to worry about with school. She wouldn't add to it. Nothing. Just had a long day. Love you. Love you too. After the call, Emily stood in the alley behind the club trying to breathe. The cool air helped, but the anxiety remained, coiled tight in her chest. You shouldn't be out here alone. Emily spun around. Adrian stood in the doorway, backlit by the club's interior lights. I needed air, Emily said. He stepped outside, the door closing behind him. In the dim alley, he looked different, less polished, more dangerous. Something's wrong, I can tell. Emily hesitated. She didn't want to seem weak, didn't want to run to him. Every time she felt scared, but the men in the sedan, there were men watching me at the diner. 2 days in a row, the words tumbled out. One of them came inside, asked about you, about the club. They're still there when I leave, just sitting watching. Adrian's expression went cold. Describe them. Emily did the sedan, the shaved head, the Russian accent. With each detail, Adrian's jaw tightened. The Kozlovs, he said quietly. Small-time crew. Trying to move up by making noise, he pulled out his phone, typed something quickly. Vincent's on his way. He'll check the diner. See if they're still there. I don't want to cause trouble. Emily. Daman stepped closer, his voice firm but not unkind. "This is exactly the kind of trouble my protection is meant to prevent. You did the right thing, telling me." His phone buzzed. He read the message, his expression darkening. "They're parked outside your apartment building now." Emily's blood went cold. "Danny's coming home at 9. I've already sent 2 men to escort him safely inside. He'll be fine." Adrian's eyes met hers. "But you're not going home tonight. Not until this is handled. I can't just—" "Yes, you can." His tone left no room for argument. "The Kozlovs are testing boundaries. They want to see how serious my protection is. If I let them continue, others will try the same thing. So we stop this now." Emily wrapped her arms around herself. She felt like a chess piece being moved around a board, powerless to control her own position. Adrian must have seen it in her face because his expression softened. "I know this isn't what you wanted. Being watched, being protected, having your life arranged by someone else." He paused. "But they saw you as an opportunity, a way to get to me, and I can't let that happen." "Why?" Emily looked up at him. "Why does it matter so much? The debt is paid. Your mother thanked me. I'm grateful for everything you've done for Danny, but why keep protecting me like this?" Adrian was quiet for a long moment. In the distance, sirens wailed, the city's soundtrack, because good people are rare in my world, Emily. And I've learned that when you find one, you hold on. His voice dropped. "Because when you saved my mother, you changed something. Reminded us that kindness exists without strings attached. And because—" He stopped himself, seeming to reconsider his words. "Because what?" Emily whispered. "Because I choose to." The simplicity of it hit harder than any elaborate explanation. "You matter. I told you that before. I meant it." Before Emily could respond, Vincent appeared at the end of the alley. "Boss, the Kozlovs just left the apartment building. We've got their plates, their location. Want us to pay them a visit?" Adrian's expression shifted. Businessman to predator in a heartbeat. "Not yet. Follow them. Find out where they're operating from. I want to know who else is involved before we move." He looked at Emily. "Vincent will take you to a safe house tonight. Comfortable, secure. Danny will meet you there." "For how long?" "Just tonight. Tomorrow this will be handled." It wasn't a promise. It was a guarantee. Emily nodded, too tired to argue, too scared to refuse. As Vincent led her back inside, she glanced over her shoulder. Adrian stood in the alley, phone to his ear, his voice low and deadly calm as he gave orders. She'd become a weakness, a target, and Daman Blackwood was about to show anyone watching exactly what happened to people who threatened what he protected. The Clove brothers had made a fatal mistake. They had assumed protection was about territory or business. But for Adrian, Emily Carter had become something else entirely, and he was done letting others decide her safety. The safe house had been comfortable, a townhouse in a quiet neighborhood with Danny safely beside her. But after one night of protective custody, Emily needed normally. She needed her life back. Daman had agreed reluctantly on the condition that security remain tight. "They'll be discreet," he promised. "You won't even know they're there." That was Friday. By Saturday night, Emily had almost convinced herself the danger had passed. She'd been wrong. The Crimson Lounge closed at 2 a.m. and Emily finished her closing duties by 2:30, tired but relieved the week was finally over. The security Daman promised was there. She'd seen Vincent's car in the parking lot earlier. That should have been enough. But when Emily stepped into the back alley to take out the trash before leaving, Vincent's car was gone. The alley was empty, silent, except for the distant hum of traffic. Emily's instincts screamed at her to go back inside, but the dumpster was 10 FT away. 10 FT there, 10 FT back, 30 seconds tops. She was 5 F'd from the dumpster when she heard footsteps behind her. Emily Carter. She spun around. 2 men blocked the alley entrance, the one with a shaved head from the diner and another shorter stockier with a scar running down his neck. The Clove brothers. Emily's heart hammered against her ribs. The club is closed. You need to leave. We're not here for drinks. The bald one, Alexei said, moving closer. His brother Victor flanked her other side, cutting off any escape route. Emily backed toward the brick wall, her mind racing. Vincent was supposed to be here. Where was he? We just want to talk, Alexei continued, his tone mockingly gentle. Have a conversation about your friend, Mr. Blackwood. I don't know what you want. Information. Victor grabbed her shoulder bag, yanking it from her arm. He dumped the contents on the ground. Wallet, phone, keys scattering across the pavement. You work for Blackwood. You know things. We want to know them, too. I'm just a waitress. Emily's voice shook despite her best efforts. I don't know anything about his business. Alexei laughed. Just a waitress? Is that why he put Leo Greco in the hospital for you? Why he's got guards watching you day and night? He stepped closer, backing her against the wall. You're lying. Emily's hand reached behind her, feeling the rough brick. No way out, no one to help. Tell us about his operations, Victor demanded. Shipments, schedules, who he meets with everything. I don't know anything. Emily's fear was turning to anger now. I serve drinks, I clean tables, that's all I know. Wrong answer. Alexei nodded to his brother. Victor shoved Emily hard against the wall. Pain exploded in her shoulder blades, her already damaged ribs screaming in protest. She gasped, trying to catch her breath. Let's try again, Alexei said softly, pulling something from his jacket. A knife. 6 in of steel that caught the dim alley light. Emily's blood turned to ice. We know Blackwood's got shipments coming through the port Tuesday night, Alexei said, pressing the blade against Emily's throat. Not hard enough to cut, but the threat was clear. What we don't know is which dock, which time, how many men. You're going to tell us. I don't know. Tears stung Emily's eyes, not from fear, but from frustration. Why won't you believe me? I don't know anything. Then you're worthless to us, Victor muttered. The knife pressed harder. Emily felt the sharp edge against her skin. One wrong move away from drawing blood. This was it. This was how she died. In an alley behind a nightclub, killed for information she didn't have by men she'd never wronged. She thought of Danny, who would take care of him. Isabella, would Daman make sure he was okay? Please, Emily whispered, echoing her words from that first night. Please don't hurt me, I'm all. Suddenly, light flooded the alley, blinding white coming from everywhere at once. Alexa jerked back, the knife dropping from Emily's throat. Victor swore in Russian, shielding his eyes. Emily blinked against the brightness, her vision adjusting slowly. 2 black SUVs had pulled into both ends of the alley, high beams on, engines rumbling like caged beasts. Doors opened simultaneously. Men emerged, 6 of them, maybe 8, all wearing dark suits and expressions carved from stone. And from the lead SUV, Daman Blackwood stepped out. He moved with terrifying calm, his footsteps echoing in the sudden silence. Vincent flanked his right side, and another man Emily recognized as Vincent took his left. The temperature in the alley seemed to drop 20 degrees. Gentlemen, Daman said, his voice quiet and deadly. Step away from her now. Alexei still held the knife, but his hand was shaking. Who? We were just, I know exactly what you were doing. Adrian's eyes never left the brothers, but Emily felt the weight of his attention on her, checking if she was hurt. The question is whether you want to walk out of this alley or be carried out. Victor raised his hand slowly. We were just talking. You put a knife to her throat. Adrian's tone never changed, which made it infinitely more frightening. You threatened someone under my protection. My personal protection? He took another step forward. Did you really think I wouldn't find out? We didn't hurt her, Alexei protested, but the knife was still in his hand, betraying his words. No, but you tried. Adrian stopped 10 FT away. Vincent, get Claire out of here. Vincent moved immediately, gently guiding Emily away from the wall. Her legs were shaking so badly she could barely walk, but his grip was steady, supportive. "Boss, what about?" Vincent started. "Take her to the car, I'll handle this." Emily wanted to protest, wanted to see what happened, but Vincent was already guiding her toward one of the SUVs. As they walked past Adrian, their eyes met for just a second. The fury in his gaze took her breath away, but underneath it she saw something else. Relief. She was safe. That's all that mattered to him in that moment. Vincent helped her into the back seat of the SUV, the leather cool against her shaking body. Through the tinted windows she could barely make out shapes in the alley. She heard Damon's voice, low and controlled, speaking words she couldn't make out. Then other voices, pleading, desperate. A door on one of the SUVs opened. The Kozlov brothers were pushed inside, their hands zip-tied behind their backs, their faces pale with terror. Then Adrian was at her car, opening the door, sliding in beside her. "Are you hurt?" His hands were on her face, tilting it toward the interior light, checking her throat where the knife had pressed. "I'm okay," Emily managed. "Scared, but okay. Your phone, your bag. Vincent will get everything." Adrian's jaw was tight, anger radiating from him in waves, but his hands on her face remained gentle. "I should have had 3 men on you, not 1. This is my fault. Where's Vincent? I saw his car earlier, but then it was gone. Punctured tire, deliberate. They waited until he left to change it before they made their move." Damon's eyes darkened. "They planned this, studied your schedule, studied our security. This wasn't opportunistic. It was calculated." Emily's hands were still shaking. Damon took them in his warmth grounding her. "What's going to happen to them?" she asked, though part of her didn't want to know. "They threatened you, assaulted you, put a knife to your throat." Adrian's voice was still. "They're going to learn that there are consequences for touching what's mine." The possessiveness in his tone should have frightened her. Instead, it made her feel safe. "Thank you," Emily whispered. "For coming, for saving me always." Adrian squeezed her hands. "I will always come for you, Emily. Do you understand that?" She did. Finally, she truly did. "Take her home," Adrian told Vincent, who'd returned with her bag. "Stay with her tonight. Full detail on the building." He started to leave, but Emily grabbed his arm. "Adrian, please don't do anything you'll regret." He looked at her with an expression she couldn't read. "I won't regret anything I do to protect you." Then he was gone, back to the alley, back to the men who dared to touch her. And Emily sat in the back of the SUV, her heart still racing, realizing that somewhere along the way this had stopped being about a debt. This had become something else entirely. Vincent drove Emily to her apartment, but she couldn't stop looking back toward the alley. Couldn't stop wondering what was happening in the darkness she'd left behind. "Don't worry about them," Vincent said quietly, reading her thoughts. "The boss will handle it. That's what worries me," Emily whispered. At her building, 2 more men in suits stood guard at the entrance. They nodded respectfully as Emily passed, their presence both comforting and unsettling. Danny was still awake, pacing the living room. He pulled Emily into a fierce hug the moment she walked through the door. Vincent called. He said there was trouble. "Are you okay? Are you hurt?" Danny pulled back, scanning her face, her neck where the knife had pressed. His eyes went wide. "Is that a mark?" "Emily, I'm fine. Adrian got there in time." Emily's voice was steadier than she felt. "It's over now." But even as she said it, she wondered if that was true. At 3:30 in the morning, Emily's phone rang. Adrian's name lit up the screen. She answered on the second ring, her voice rough with exhaustion. "Hello? It's handled." Adrian's voice was calm, but she could hear something underneath, controlled rage, slowly cooling. The Kozlov brothers won't be bothering anyone again. Emily sat up in bed, her heart suddenly racing. "What does that mean? What did you do?" "I sent a message to them and to anyone else who might think you're an easy target." There was a pause. "They're alive, Emily. broken but alive, and they've been strongly encouraged to leave Chicago permanently. Relief ward with unease in Emily's chest. You didn't have to. Yes, I did. Adrian's tone left no room for argument. They put a knife to your throat. They tried to use you to get to me. If I let that slide, every two-bit crew in the city would think you're fair game. His voice softened slightly. I told you I'd protect you. I meant it. Emily pulled her knees to her chest, phone pressed against her ear. I'm sorry. This is all my fault. If I hadn't helped your mother that day, if I hadn't. Stop. The word was gentle but firm. You did nothing wrong. You helped someone who needed help. The only people at fault are the ones who tried to hurt you because of it. I feel like I've ruined your life, Emily admitted, the words spilling out before she could stop them. You have to protect me now, have to worry about me, have to deal with threats because of me. That's not fair to you. Adrian was quiet for a long moment. When he spoke, his voice was softer than she'd ever heard it. Emily, you didn't ruin my life. You reminded me why I do this. Why the family business matters. It's not about power or money. It's about protecting people who can't protect themselves. He paused. My father used to say that real strength isn't dominating the weak. It's defending them. You've given me a chance to honor that. Tears burned Emily's eyes. I don't know what to say. Say you'll get some rest. Say you trust me to keep you safe. Another pause. Say you'll call me if anything feels wrong. Even if it seems small, I will. I promise. Good. She could hear the smile in his voice. There's a car outside your building. It'll stay there tonight and every night until I'm satisfied the threat is gone. Don't argue with me about it. I wasn't going to, Emily admitted. That's new. Now the smile was definitely there. Get some sleep, Emily. Tomorrow's Sunday. Take the day off. Both jobs paid. Adrian, not negotiable. You were assaulted tonight. You need rest. His tone softened again. Please, for me. The for me did it. Emily found herself nodding even though he couldn't see. Okay, for you. Thank you. Good night, Emily. Good night. But before she could hang up, Adrian spoke again. Emily, one more thing. Yes, you're not a burden. You're not a problem. He seemed to struggle for words. You're important to my family, to my mother, to me. Remember that. The call ended before Emily could respond. She sat in the darkness of her bedroom, phone still in her hand, those words echoing to me. The next morning, news spread through the underground like wildfire. The Clove brothers had been found in their warehouse, beaten but alive, with a message spray painted on the wall above them. Touch what's mine. Pay the price. Their operations had been dismantled overnight. Money seized, connections severed, reputation destroyed. By noon they were gone, fled the city with nothing but the clothes on their backs and the knowledge that Dom and Blackwood's protection wasn't symbolic. It was absolute. At Rita's diner, the owner pulled Emily aside with wide eyes. Honey, I don't know what happened last night, but 3 different people came by this morning to make sure I knew you were under Blackwood's protection. Like, really? Made sure I knew. Rita looked shaken. One of them said, anyone who messes with you answers to him personally. Emily, what's going on? I'm safe, Emily said simply. That's all that matters. And it was true. For the first time in years, maybe in her entire life, Emily felt truly safe. That afternoon, a delivery arrived at her apartment. A large box with a note in elegant handwriting. Emily, these are for you. No arguments. Inside were a new phone to replace the one damaged in the alley, a first aid kit with expensive supplies, and a beautiful leather journal with a note inside. For your thoughts, your dreams, your story. You deserve to write your own future. We're grateful every day that you were part of ours. Isabella's kindness brought fresh tears to Emily's eyes. That evening, Adrian called again. Did you get my mother's package? I did. It's too much. Emily, he sighed, but she could hear the affection in it. Your family now. This is what family does. We take care of each other. Family. The word settled into Emily's chest like a warm stone. Thank you, she said softly. For everything, for last night, for today. For caring, Adrian finished. Yeah, for caring. It's easy to care about you, Emily Carter. His voice was warm. Easiest thing I've done in a long time. After they hung up, Emily looked out her window at the city lights. The black car sat below, faithful as a shadow. Inside her apartment, Danny studied peacefully, his future secure because of Isabella's generosity. And somewhere in the city, Adrian Blackwood had just redefined his territory to include one ordinary waitress who'd helped his mother for years ago. Except she wasn't ordinary to him anymore. She was his to protect, his to defend, his, and anyone who touched her would learn exactly what that meant. Emily fell asleep that night with her door locked, her brother safe, and the knowledge that for the first time since her parents died, she wasn't alone in the world. She had a family again. Even if that family was built on protection, power, and a debt that had transformed into something neither of them had expected, something that felt dangerously close to belonging. Monday morning at Rita's diner felt different. Emily noticed at the moment she walked through the door. The usual morning crowd was there. Construction workers, nurses, regulars nursing coffee before their shifts. But the atmosphere had changed. People looked at her differently now, not with curiosity or suspicion, but with something closer to respect, even reverence. Morning, Emily called out Joe, a contractor who'd been coming to the diner for years but had never bothered learning her name before. Coffee is on me today. Thanks, Joe, Emily said carefully, tying her apron. Rita pulled her aside immediately, her voice low. Everyone knows what happened Saturday night. The Koslow brothers, the whole thing. She squeezed Emily's arm. Honey, are you sure you're okay to work? I need to work. Need things to feel normal. Emily managed to smile. I'm fine. Really. But normal was relative now. Throughout her shift, customers treated her with a gentleness that felt both touching and surreal. Tips doubled. People said please and thank you like the words actually mattered. No one snapped their fingers for refills or complained about the temperature of their coffee. The two men who'd been watching her for the cause never returned. Their usual table by the window remained empty, a silent testament to Adrian's message. At one point, a well-dressed man Emily didn't recognize came in and approached the counter. He didn't order food. He simply handed Rita an envelope for Miss Carter from a friend. Then he left. Rita passed Emily the envelope with raised eyebrows. Inside was a note in Adrian's handwriting. The neighborhood has been cleaned up. The problems are gone. You're safe to walk home now, but the car stays. Humor me, D. Emily folded the note and tucked it in her pocket, warmth spreading through her chest despite herself. That evening at the Crimson Lounge, the change was even more pronounced. The moment Emily walked in, Jenna practically jumped over the hostess stand. Emily, oh my God, we heard what happened. Are you okay? Do you need anything? I'm fine, Jenna. Thanks. Michelle approached more cautiously, her expression sincere for the first time since Emily had known her. I'm sorry, she said quietly. For what I said before about being careful about them owning you, I was wrong. Emily blinked in surprise. You are trying to help. I get it. No, you don't. Michelle glanced around, then lowered her voice. What Blackwood did to the Kozlovs, that wasn't about territory or business. That was personal. He cares about you, really cares. And I was too cynical to see it. Before Emily could respond, Michelle squeezed her hand and walked away, leaving Emily to process this shift in perspective. The night passed smoothly. No testing, no probing questions, no uncomfortable stares. The staff treated her like one of their own, genuinely, and the customers, the ones who frequented the club regularly, nodded respectfully when she served them. During her break, Emily found a small package in her locker. Inside was a delicate silver pendant on a chain, a simple design of a rose in bloom. The accompanying note was in Isabella's elegant script. Dearest Emily, this belonged to my mother and her mother before her, in our family. It's given to daughters we hold dear to our hearts. You saved my life. But more than that, you've brought light back into our family. You've reminded us of goodness. Please accept this as a symbol of our gratitude and love. You are not just under our protection. You are part of our family always. With love, Isabella Blackwood. Emily's hands trembled as she fastened the necklace around her neck. The pendant rested just above her heart, warm against her skin. She was staring at her reflection in the small locker room mirror when Adrian appeared in the doorway. "My mother has impeccable timing," he said softly, nodding toward the necklace. "That looks right on you." Emily touched the pendant. "It's too much. This is a family heirloom, and now it belongs to family." Adrian stepped closer, his eyes serious. "Emily, I know this past week has been overwhelming. The threats, the protection, being pulled into a world you never asked to be part of, but I need you to understand something." He reached out, gently adjusting the pendant so it hung perfectly straight. The gesture was intimate, careful. "This isn't temporary," he said. "My protection, my family's acceptance, it doesn't end when the threats disappear. You're one of us now. Whether you're working here at the diner or anywhere else in the city, that doesn't change." "Why?" Emily asked the question she'd been holding back, finally escaping. "I know I helped your mother, but this feels like so much more than repaying a debt." Adrian's expression softened in a way she'd never seen before. "Because you're extraordinary, Emily, and extraordinary people are rare." He paused, seeming to weigh his words. "Because when I look at you, I see someone who makes this world better just by being in it, and I've spent my whole life in darkness. You're light." The words hit Emily like a physical force. She searched his face, seeing past the Mafia boss, past the reputation to the man underneath. Someone lonely despite being surrounded by people, someone hungry for genuine connection in a world built on transactions. "I don't know how to do this," Emily admitted. "Be part of this family, navigate this world. You're Emily Carter," Daman interrupted gently. "That's all you need to be. Don't change. Don't try to become someone else to fit in. We want you exactly as you are." His hand lingered near hers, not quite touching, but close enough that she could feel his warmth. "I should get back to work," Emily said, though she didn't move. "You should," Adrian agreed, not moving either. For a moment they stood there in the small locker room, the noise of the club muted beyond the door, the world reduced to just the two of them and everything unspoken between them. Then Adrian stepped back, the spell breaking. "I'll be in my office if you need anything, anything at all." He left and Emily stood alone with Isabella's pendant against her heart and Damon's words echoing in her mind. "You're light." The rest of the night passed in a blur. When Emily finally left at 2 a.m., the black car was waiting. But this time, Adrian himself sat in the driver's seat. "Where's Paolo?" Emily asked as she slid into the passenger seat. "I gave him the night off." Damon pulled away from the curb. "I wanted to drive you home myself. Make sure you're okay." They drove in comfortable silence for several blocks before Emily spoke. "The neighborhood really does look different. Cleaner, safer. I meant what I said. You're safe now." "Everywhere you go," Damon glanced at her. The Clove spread the word before they left. "Anyone who touches you answers to me personally." That message reached every crew in Chicago. Is that a good thing or a bad thing? It's reality, and in my world, reality is the best protection I can offer. When they reached her building, Damon walked her to the door despite her protests. "Thank you," Emily said, hand on the doorknob. "For everything. For tonight. For this week. For Emily." He stopped her with a gentle hand on her arm. "Stop thanking me. We're family now. Family takes care of each other." She smiled. "Your mother said the same thing. She's usually right." Adrian's expression was warm. "Sleep well. I'll see you tomorrow." He waited until she was inside until the door was locked before returning to his car. From her window, Emily watched him drive away, one hand touching Isabella's pendant. For the first time since her parents died, Emily Carter felt like she belonged somewhere. The whisper that stopped a kick had changed everything, and tomorrow she'd wake up in a world where she was no longer invisible, where she was protected, cherished, and valued, where she mattered. Under Adrian Blackwood's wing, Emily had found something she'd lost 3 years ago. She'd found home. 6 weeks later, the morning rush at Rita's diner moved with its usual rhythm, but Emily navigated it with a confidence she'd never had before. She wasn't loud about it, wasn't arrogant, but something fundamental had shifted in how she carried herself. She knew she was safe, and that knowledge changed everything. "Emily, table 6 is asking for you specifically," Rita said, passing by with a pot of coffee. There was no surprise in her voice anymore. People asked for Emily now, always. The businessman at table 6 wanted to know if his order could be rushed. He had a meeting. 6 weeks ago, he would have snapped his fingers and demanded. Now he asked politely, even apologetically. "I'll see what I can do," Emily said with a genuine smile. In the kitchen, the cook had it ready before she even asked. At the Crimson Lounge, the shift was even more pronounced. Emily had become something of a legend among the staff. The waitress who'd survived an attack and brought down an entire crew without lifting a finger. They treated her with a difference she'd never sought but had learned to accept gracefully. "Miss Carter, your section is ready," the new floor manager said, using her last name with automatic respect. Emily worked her tables with the same professionalism she'd always had, but now conversation stopped when she approached. Men who'd never noticed her before stood when she arrived. Tips appeared before she'd even brought the check. She never asked for special treatment, never demanded it, but it came anyway, as natural as breathing. During her break, Emily sat in the staff room scrolling through her phone. Danny had sent photos from his campus tour, a prestigious university, one he'd only dared dream about before Isabella's scholarship. His smile in the pictures was so bright it made Emily's chest ache with happiness. "This is because of you," he'd texted. "Thank you for everything, sis." Emily touched Isabella's pendant, a habit she developed over the past weeks. The weight of it reminded her she wasn't alone anymore, that she had people who cared, who protected, who saw her as more than just a waitress trying to survive. "Emily," Michelle poked her head in. "Mr. Blackwood just arrived, table 10. In Emily's heart did a small flutter, the way it always did when she knew he was here. She'd seen him several times over the past weeks. Brief conversations, careful check-ins, moments that felt both casual and weighted with everything unspoken between them. She smoothed her apron and walked onto the floor. Daman sat at his usual table, surrounded by associates, but somehow apart from them. He was reviewing documents, his reading glasses perched on his nose, completely absorbed until Emily approached. He looked up and the business mask slipped for just a second. His eyes softened, a small smile touching his lips. "Emily, Mr. Blackwood, can I get you anything?" "Whiskey." "Neat." He removed his glasses, his gaze never leaving her face. "How are you?" "Good. Really good, actually." And she meant it. His smile widened slightly. "I can see that. You look settled." It was the perfect word. Settled. Like she'd finally found her place in the world after years of floating. "Your mother invited Danny and me for Sunday dinner," Emily said, setting down his drink. "She's insisting on cooking her famous lasagna. She's been planning that menu for a week." Adrian's expression was warm with affection. "Fair warning, she'll try to send you home with enough leftovers to feed a small army. I'm counting on it." They shared a smile, the kind of smile that carried 6 weeks of history of protection and gratitude, and something deeper neither had named yet. One of Adrian's associates cleared his throat, reminding them they had an audience. Emily straightened professionally. "Let me know if you need anything else." "I will." As she walked away, Emily felt his eyes on her. Not possessive or controlling, but watchful, protective. The way someone looked at something precious they'd chosen to guard. She delivered drinks to table 7, where 3 men were deep in conversation about territory disputes. The moment she approached, their conversations stopped out of respect. One of them, a man she recognized as a rival family's representative, actually stood and pulled out her chair when she reached for his empty glass. "Thank you, Miss Carter," he said formally. She nodded graciously and moved on, not missing the significance. A rival family showing her respect. That's what Adrian's protection meant. That's what one whispered plea had built. At the end of her shift, Emily changed in the locker room and paused to look at herself in the mirror. Same face, same uniform, same person she'd always been. But the girl staring back at her stood taller now, stronger. She hadn't asked for power, hadn't sought influence or protection or a place in Adrian Blackwood's world. But power had chosen her anyway, because one night, bruised and terrified, she'd whispered 5 words that cut through the noise. "Please don't kick me. I'm already hurt." Those words had reached the right person at the right moment, and everything had changed. When Emily walked through the club to leave, she saw Adrian still at his table. Their eyes met across the room, a moment of perfect understanding. No words needed, no grand gestures, just a nod. Emily's was respectful but equal. His was protective but acknowledging. Two people from different worlds who'd found unexpected connection in the space between a whisper and a rescue. Emily stepped into the cool night air where Paolo waited with the car. The city stretched out before her, no longer threatening but familiar. Home. Behind her, inside the club, Daman watched through the window until her car disappeared around the corner. Then he returned to his business, secure in the knowledge that Emily Carter was safe. And in her apartment later that night, Emily sat with Danny watching television, Isabella's pendant warm against her heart. Adrian's protection invisible but absolute around her. She'd survived loss, poverty, fear, and violence. She'd given everything to save her brother, and in the end, Adrian Blackwood understood that power meant nothing without someone who saw the man beneath the steel. Emily's compassion, bravery, and unwavering kindness had softened the sharpest parts of him. She didn't change him with fear or force, but with sincerity. Adrian offered Emily a place not beside his empire, but beside his heart. The restaurant where they first met became a quiet reminder of how two different worlds collided and built something new. If you enjoyed this story, make sure to like, subscribe, and turn on notifications so you never miss the next chapter.